current difficulties in China-UK relationship. First, China's determination to follow the basic norms governing international relations has not changed. These basic norms include mutual respect for each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, non-interference in each other's internal affairs, equality, and mutual benefit. These are the fundamental principles that are enshrined in the UN Charter. These are the basic norms of international law and state-to-state relations. They are also the basic guidelines that have been written into the joint communique of China and UK on exchange of ambassadors, and hence form the bedrock for China-UK relationship. China has never interfered in the internal affairs of other countries, including the UK, and we ask the same from other countries. Recently, however, the above-mentioned important principles have been violated time and again. On Hong Kong, there have been blunted interference from the UK in Hong Kong affairs, which are internal affairs of China, including groundless accusations against the national security law for Hong Kong SAR, change to the policy involving BNO passport holders, the suspension of extradition treaty with Hong Kong. These moves have seriously interrupted the stability and prosperity in Hong Kong. On Xinjiang, the UK disregarded the facts, confused right and wrong, flaunted slanders recklessly at China's Xinjiang-related policies, and interfered in China's internal affairs by raising the so-called human rights issue in Xinjiang, bilaterally and multilaterally. These actions have seriously poisoned the atmosphere of China-UK relationship. Second, China's commitment to the path of peaceful development has not changed. Pursuing peaceful development is an unwavering strategic choice and solemn pledge of China. China has never invaded other countries or sought expansion. China has never and will not export its system or model. China seeks development because we want a better life for our people. We do not want to threaten, challenge, or replace anyone. History has proved, and will continue to prove, that China is always a defender of world peace, a contributor to global development, and upholder of international law. A stronger China will make the world a more peaceful, stable, and prosperous place. However, some British politicians cling to the Cold War mentality and echo the remarks of anti-China forces in and outside the UK. They play up the so-called China threat, see China as a hostile state, threaten a complete decoupling from China, and even clamor for a new Cold War against China. Third, China's resolve to fulfill its international obligations has not changed. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. China was the first country to put its signature on the UN Charter. It is now a member of more than 100 intergovernmental international organizations and has signed over 500 multilateral treaties. It has faithfully fulfilled its international responsibilities and obligations. It has never withdrawn from international organizations or treaties, nor does it believe in us first at the expense of others. It is completely wrong to see the national security law for Hong Kong as a violation of Sino-British Joint Declaration or a failure to honor international obligations. The core content of Joint Declaration is about China's resumption of exercise of sovereignty over Hong Kong. The national security law for Hong Kong fully embodies the comprehensive jurisdiction of the central government of China over Hong Kong. The policies regarding Hong Kong laid out in the Joint Declaration was proposed by China on our own initiative. They are not China's commitment to the UK or international obligations. The label of failure to fulfill international obligations should not be stuck on China. It is the UK side that has failed to fulfill its international obligations and went against its own pledges by changing the policy on BNO passport holders and on suspending the extradition treaty with Hong Kong to create public confusion in Hong Kong, disrupt the implementation of national security law, and interfere in China's internal affairs. Fourth, China's willingness to develop partnership with the UK has not changed. During President Xi Jinping's state visit to the UK in 2015, China and the UK issued a joint declaration on building a global comprehensive strategic partnership for the 21st century. China has always seen the UK as a partner. It has been committed to developing a sound and stable relationship with the UK. As the State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi said 2 days ago in his telephone conversation with Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab, that for the UK, China is an opportunity rather than a threat, a factor for growth rather than a cause for decline, a solution rather than a challenge or risk. However, there have been major changes and serious deviation in UK's perception and definition of China. This is particularly evidenced by the recent ban on Huawei. The issue of Huawei is not about how the UK sees and deals with a Chinese company. It's about how the UK sees and deals with China. Does it see China as an opportunity or partner or a threat or rival? Does it see China as a friendly country or a hostile or potentially hostile state? The UK leaders have said on many occasions that they want to build a balanced, positive, and constructive China-UK relationship. We hope they will match their words with
still ravaging, dealing a heavy blow to economic globalization and resulting in the deep recession of the world economy. What kind of China-UK relationship do we need in face of such situation? China and the UK are both permanent members of UN Security Council and important members of G20 and other international organizations. Both are countries of global influence. Both shoulder the important mission of safeguarding the world peace and promoting development. A sound and stable China-UK relationship is not only in the fundamental interest of the peoples of our two countries, but also conducive to world peace and prosperity. We have 1,000 reasons to make this relationship successful, and not one reason to let it fail. How can we make this relationship successful? I think it's critically important to follow the 3 principles. First, respect each other. History tells us that when the international law and basic norms governing international relations are observed, China-UK relationship will move forward. Otherwise, it will suffer setbacks or even retrogression. China respects UK's sovereignty and has never interfered in the UK's internal affairs. It is important that UK will do the same, namely, respect China's sovereignty and stop interfering in Hong Kong affairs, which are China's internal affairs, so as to avoid further damage to China-UK relationship. The second principle is engage in mutually beneficial cooperation. China and the UK have a highly complementary economies and deeply integrated interests. The two countries have both benefited tremendously from cooperation. Such a mutual benefit should not be gauged by an oversimplified comparison of who is more dependent on the other or who has been taken advantage of. It is our hope that the UK would resist the pressure and coercion from a certain country and provide an open, fair, transparent, and non-discriminatory environment for Chinese investment, so as to bring back the confidence of Chinese businesses in the UK. China and UK already shared broad consensus on safeguarding multilateralism, promoting free trade, and addressing global challenges such as climate change. When Brexit is completed and COVID-19 is over, there will be unlimited prospects for China-UK cooperation in areas of trade, financial services, science and technology, education, and healthcare. It is hard to imagine a global Britain that bypasses or excludes China. Decoupling from China means decoupling from opportunities, decoupling from growth, and decoupling from the future. The third principle is to seek common ground despite differences. China and the UK differ in history, culture, social system, and development stage. It is natural. We do not always see eye to eye. 70 years ago, the UK was the first major Western country to recognize New China. Over the past 70 years, China and the UK have found common ground despite differences and went beyond ideological differences to achieve continuous progress in our bilateral relationship. Today, after 70 years, this relationship has been more substantial and more profound. It is not a relationship between rivals, where one side's gain is the other side's loss. Still less is a relationship of either or that exists between hostile states. China-UK relationship is one of a partnership which is defined by equal treatment and mutual benefit. China and the UK should have enough wisdom and capability to manage and deal with these differences, rather than allowing anti-China forces and Cold War warriors to kidnap China-UK relationship. I often say, Great Britain cannot be great without independent foreign policies. The UK has withstood the pressure from others and made the right strategic choices at many critical historical junctures. From becoming the first major Western country to recognize New China in 1950, to establishing diplomatic relationship with China at the Chargé d'Affaires level in 1954, from taking part in the Asia Infrastructure Development Bank to building a global comprehensive strategic partnership for the 21st century with China. Now China-UK relationship is once again standing at a critical historical juncture. It is my hope that political leaders and visionary people from all sectors in the UK would keep in mind the big picture of the international trend, prevent various interruptions, and make the strategic choice that serves the fundamental interests of the peoples of our two countries. Thank you. Now I'm ready to take your questions.
Hello, now the ambassador is ready to take questions. The first question will go to James Landale from the BBC. Where is James?
Ambassador, good morning. As you say, relations between the United Kingdom and China have deteriorated significantly in recent weeks over Hong Kong, Huawei, Xinjiang. Throughout that process, you and various other government representatives have threatened consequences, countermeasures, even counterattack, to use the language of last week. And yet it's still not entirely clear to me what those countermeasures are. So could you elaborate a little bit more? Is China retaliating in secret, or is its bark worse than its bite?
I want to set the record straight. We made no threats. We threatened nobody, as I said. We just let you know the consequences. You know, people regard some of my remarks as a threatening word. I think they quote my remarks out of context. I said, China want to be friends of UK. China want to be UK's partners. But if you do not want to be our partners and our friends, you want to treat China as a hostile country, you will pay the price. That simply, it's very clear. That means you will lose the benefits of treating China as opportunities, as a friend. And you will bear the consequences of treating China as a hostile country. So that's very clear. And you're talking about the countermeasures. I think you already seen that after UK announced that they're going to change the policy on BNO, we have made a response by saying we are considering not to recognize the BNO passport holders as a legal travel document. That is because of UK taking the measure to departure from their commitments from the MOU in 1984. And at that time, they said they are not going to give a permit or a vote to the BNO holders. And why we also agree to regard the BNO holders, BNO passport as a legal travel document. Now, since they have violated their commitment, and we have to make a response. Again, with regard to extradition treaty, the UK suspended indefinitely. I think it will undermine the basis for legal collaboration between UK and Hong Kong. And China have to make a response to that. And the Hong Kong government, we announced that the Hong Kong government also suspend the extradition treaty with the UK. And they also suspend the legal assistance agreement with the UK because the basis, the foundations of the legal collaboration between the two sides have been undermined. Thank you.
The next question, Deborah Haynes from Sky News.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. On Hong Kong, in the last couple of days, we've seen a small number of people being arrested under these new security laws, seemingly just for posting comments on the internet, and then also a number of pro-democracy activists today being disqualified from running in the elections. Doesn't this really prove the concerns that the UK have about the national security law undermining Hong Kong's freedoms. And if I may, as you mentioned Xinjiang, have you had any more clarity about those images that you were shown a couple of weeks ago on the BBC? European security sources say they believe those men who are shackled and shaven in those suits were members of the Uyghur minority. Why were they being transported and treated in such a way?
First, on Hong Kong, the national security law is about to plug the loopholes, legal loopholes, for safeguarding national security. You know, since handover in the past 23 years ago, there'll be no law taking care of national security. And we've seen what happened in last year, that people are talking about one country, two systems, and we all witness how one country has been eroded, how one country has been put in risk. And it's a time late for the central government to the National People's Congress to enact the law to plug the loopholes. It has nothing to do with freedom of speech, freedom of expression. That has been clearly stimulated in the national security law. The basic human rights will be fully respected. This law is only targeted on a very few criminals who intend to endanger the national security. The law is very clear. It's a 4 categories of a crime. If you stay away from this category of crimes, you will have no problem. You know, with regard to freedom of expression, freedom of procession, freedom of demonstrations, and the capitalist system will not change. Hong Kong will continue to enjoy independent judicial system, including the final appeal of the court. And so I think Hong Kong, this law will only make one country, two systems more sustainable. And so that's why it's overwhelmingly supported by the Hong Kong people. About 3 million Hong Kong people signed a petition to show their support of this law, because they want to have a peaceful, prosperous, stable environment for Hong Kong. With regard to Xinjiang, I think I will leave it at the later part of this. I certainly will respond to your second question.
The third question, can I ask Paul Barber from CGTN?
Thank you. Good morning, Ambassador. So you just mentioned that China might stop recognising BNO passports as valid travel documents. What would that mean in practice for Hong Kong residents who want to travel to the UK? Also, how do you see a path forward for restoring trust and goodwill between China and the UK, which has diminished so much on both sides?
China has done nothing to weaken the trust, mutual trust between the two countries. As I said, we see UK as a partner, as a friendly country. We want to advance this relationship, the golden era between our two countries. As I said on many occasions, you know, we are about to celebrate this 50th anniversary. It's a time for celebration. But unfortunately, it's UK side which have done, things to undermine the mutual trust by making unwarranted acquisition of this national security law to interrupt the implementation of this law, to interfere into Hong Kong's internal affairs. And so I think as I already said in my presentation, the way out for China-UK relations is the basic 3 principles: mutual respect, non-interference into each other's internal affairs, and treat each other as equals, as partners. And we do recognize we have differences, but we need to address these differences on equal basis. We should recognize the differences. And China has no intention to change UK. And I think UK should have no intention to change China. And we have been around for 70 years. And I think we have a common ground, common interest to unite our two countries rather than differences to divide us. We have China and UK as countries of global influence. We have enormous duties, responsibility, to live up to our responsibility to promote world peace and world prosperity. There's so many common agendas in front of us. With regard to the specific question you mentioned, since UK violated its commitment and pledge with regard to BNO, so we have to let them know that we have to take our measures not to recognize the BNO passport as a valid travel document. Thank you.
The next question, Guy Falconbridge from the Reuters.
Hello, can you hear me?
Of course. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you very much, Ambassador. I just wanted to sort of take a slightly bigger picture, and apologies if this is a stupid question, but it seems clear that US President Donald Trump sees China as the major geopolitical foe of the 21st century. So do you see a new Cold War between the West and China? And how do you react to the view that President Xi has slightly overplayed his hand? Thank you very much.
What's your last point?
Many people think that perhaps President Xi has been too assertive over recent years and that this has upset the Americans.
I think you already answered your own questions. It's not China become assertive. It's the other side of the Pacific Ocean to want to start new Cold War on China. So we have to make response to that. We have no interest in any Cold War. We have no interest at any wars. When United States started this trade war against China, we said there will be no winner in trade war, and we want to engage with them. Then we have a phase 1 agreement, and we are still keeping engaging with them. But, I think this coronavirus really worsened the situation because we have all seen what is happening in the United States. But they try to find a scapegoat on China. They want to blame China for their problems. We all know this is election year, but I've been posted twice in Washington. I witnessed 5 elections on the ground, in person, not from distance. People say, you as politicians will say anything in order to get elected in the election years. But it seems to me this year is more, like this. They are not only going to say anything, but also they want to do anything, including treating China as enemy. Probably they think they need an enemy. They think they need a Cold War, but we have no interest. We keep telling Americans, China is not your enemy. China is your friend, is your partner. Your enemy is a virus. I hope you as politicians will focusing on fighting virus, focusing on saving lives instead of blaming China. Thank you.
Next question. Could I invite Madam Hou Maohua from China Central Television, please?
Good morning, Ambassador. So my question is, the Director General from the Confederation of British Industry used to show her opinions in the Financial Times days ago, that she said that the UK cannot afford to self-isolate from China because of the huge benefits from the collaboration between these two countries. But I think just as what you just mentioned, I think some of the British politicians, they just hold the opposite opinion. So what's your comment on that? And also, if it's allowed, can I have another question, is that I think you have watched many videos and pictures in the previous interview taken with the local media. And also you have stated and clarified many times on the Chinese policy on Xinjiang issue. But I think probably my Western colleagues, they still keen on the similar topics. So probably, personally, I think they probably like to blame China on this issue a lot. So what's your comment on this kind of communication? Thank you.
You know, I said in my opening remarks, I think China-UK relations is really mutually beneficial. I quite agree with the Director General of CBI. I just give you a few figures. You know, some people say that China gains more from this relationship, and I don't think this is true. In the past 20 years, from 1999 to 2020, UK export to China increased 20 times. 20 times. Even since I became Chinese ambassador, UK, trade between our two countries increased double. And Chinese investment in the past 10 years increased 20 times. So there's a 20 times, really self-evident. It created enormous many jobs and Chinese tourists to this country each year, supported 11,000 jobs. And even Chinese students here, UK is the largest recipient of Chinese students. Of course, Chinese students benefit from studying here, but they also made contributions to this country. Even by the student expenditure, according to Cambridge study, it supported 17,000 jobs in 2018. To say nothing about, the contribution made by Huawei. They helped to build the telecommunication industry in this country. And also, like Chinese people make some Cold War warriors try to find another target on nuclear project that Chinese companies working with the French partners together with the British partners. I think this project will serve, the interests of UK, and also help UK to achieve its goal to realize zero emission by 2050. I really hope that the politicians will look at this from a perspective, objective, prospect. This is a win-win relationship. So since there are two journalists asked the question about Xinjiang, there are so many fallacies and lies that permeated in the Western media. It can be called the lies of the century. Moreover, some Western countries have been using Xinjiang-related issues to discredit China and interfere in China's internal affairs. Regrettably, the UK is one of them. So I would like to take this opportunity to debunk the lies and let the facts be known, so as to show you a real Xinjiang. First, the Xinjiang-related issues have nothing to do with the human rights, ethnic groups, or religions, but everything to do with fighting violent terrorism, separatism, and extremism. Since the 1990s, especially after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, the terrorist, separatist, religious extremist forces have launched thousands of violent attacks in Xinjiang, resulting devastating casualties of innocent people and huge loss of property. During the riots on July 5th, 2009, which shocked Xinjiang and the whole world, 197 lives were lost, and more than 1,700 people injured. In face of such grave situations, the government Xinjiang Autonomous Region has struck down upon violent terrorist activities in accordance with the law and adopted de-radicalization measures to address the root causes. These measures have been very effective. There have been no single terrorist attack for more than 3 years in a row in Xinjiang. The basic rights of all ethnic groups, especially the rights of life, health, and development, are fully safeguarded. Therefore, these measures have won extensive and heartfelt support from people of all ethnic groups in Xinjiang. These measures have also been an important contribution to global fight against terrorism. That's one positive response from international community. Since the end of 2018, more than 1,000 people, over 7 groups, including officials from the United Nations, members of foreign diplomatic corps in China, permanent representative to UN and other international organizations in Geneva, journalist representatives, have visited Xinjiang. They represented over 90 countries. They spoke highly of the counterterrorism and de-radicalization measures in Xinjiang, saying that these measures are in line with the purpose and the principles of the United Nations in striking down upon terrorism and safeguarding basic human rights, and should be fully recognized and shared with other countries. In October 2019, representatives from more than 60 countries spoke at the 74th session of the Third Committee of UN General Assembly in recognition of the human rights progress in Xinjiang. In July this year, representatives from 46 countries made a joint statement at the 44th session of the Human Rights Council in support of China's position and the counter-terrorism measures in Xinjiang. Now, in order for you to have a real picture of Xinjiang, I'd like to play a video to help you to see the harm caused by terrorist, separatist, and extremist attacks in Xinjiang, so that you will understand why the measures taken in Xinjiang against terrorism, separatism, and extremism are necessary and important.
başına kaldık. Hem düzgün şu bırakalım cihat kılıklı doğan, cihatın fazili takıra ve şerleflerine bir yola pırsınları. Açılagan, ma gayrıkın yola kırık kırmışım. Burayı e'lon qilib bayroqni chiqarishni yasash imkoniyati bo'lsa bayroqni yasab shu bayroq oldida niqob holatda bir kichkina gap so'z qilib
Second, there are many rumors and lies about vocational education training centers in Xinjiang, calling them concentration camps or re-education camps. The truth is, they are none of these. They're useful and positive explorations of preventive and de-radicalization measures. The centers were established to address the root causes for extremism and prevent further escalation of violent terrorist activities. They are in line with the principles and spirit embodied in a number of international documents on counterterrorism, such as the UN Global Counterterrorism Strategy. In nature, they are no different from the Distance and Disengagement Program, DDP, of the UK, the Communication Corrections in the United States, or the de-radicalization centers in France, and the vocational education training centers. Those who have been led astray by extremist ideas and who have committed minor crimes could learn the common language, legal knowledge, and vocational skills. Such education and training will strengthen their ability to break away and stay away from extremist ideas and master vocational skills and help them to not only become law-abiding citizens, but also find stable jobs, earn their own living, and live a better life. At the centers, the constitutional and legal principles on respecting and safeguarding human rights are strictly followed. The dignity of trainees is fully respected. The insults and abuse of all forms are strictly prohibited. The freedom of trainees is guaranteed. The centers are managed as boarding schools. Trainees can have a home visit and ask for leave to attend to private affairs. Meanwhile, the right of trainees to use languages of ethnic groups is also fully guaranteed. All rules and regulations, school timetables and menus are written in both the common language and the languages of ethnic groups. The customs, the habits of different ethnic groups are fully respected and protected. A variety of halal food are provided for free. The freedom of religious belief is also fully respected and protected. Religious believers have the freedom to attend lawful religious activities while on home leave. Now I would like to show you a video in which trainees of vocational education and training centers tell the stories of their life in the centers.
学会了电脑的基础操作和办公软件，还有上网购买东西，然后开店的上开店的过程。待我把这个专业学好了以后，我想开属于自己的一个网店。
有的在单位上班，有的回家干自己的事情，有的开店。还是我的那些同学都有了一个好的工作，时不时的看见他们都脸上就是洋溢着笑容，都说有这样，要是没有这样一培训，我都不知道以后会什么样呀。
大多数人的发力是提高了，明辨是非能力提高了，他们不会害 met 33-year-old artist Abdul Zikari Al-Buli, who perfected his painting skills in the re-education center and now works in the gallery. We caught up with 30-year-old Urugu Yusam, who works in hospitality. We found 26-year-old Rukia Yakub, who improved her Mandarin and now works as a real estate agent. And we met 23-year-old Hala Noor, who became a cashier at the restaurant.
Now let me turn to four lies and slanders widely spread in Western media about Xinjiang. I think it is wrong to allow the lies and slanders to run amok and to let the arrogance and prejudice prevent people from seeing the facts and truth. So it is important to get the facts and truth out so that people could make up their own minds from an objective and reasonable perspective. The first lie is that nearly 1 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang are detained. This lie is cooked up by an anti-China organization and anti-China individual. The organization is the so-called Chinese Human Rights Defenders, CHRD, backed by the government of the United States, armed with interviews with only 8 people who are ethnic Uyghurs, and based on extremely rough estimation, CHRD reached an absurd conclusion that 10% of more than 20 million people in Xinjiang are detained at the so-called re-education camps. The anti-China individual is called Adrian Zenz, a far-right fundamentalist funded by the government of the United States. He published an article on Journey Central Asian Survey, claiming that Xinjiang's total re-education interment figure may be estimated at just over 1 million. According to the Gray Zone, an independent news website, Zenz's conclusion is based on a single report by Islam TV. This so-called Uyghur exile media organization based in Turkey is far from being a media organization. This is an organization that advocates separatism and extremism. And Zenz himself believes that he is led by God on a mission against China. A few days ago, when I gave an interview on BBC's Andrew Ma show, just as Deborah mentioned earlier, Mr. Ma showed me a footage which he said has been authenticated by Western intelligence agencies and by Australian experts to prove that a large number of Uyghurs are detained. Now, let's see what is really happening. I think from the radio, you can see that it shows the transfer of a group of prisoners by Kasha detention house. It has nothing to do with the so-called detainment of a large number of Uyghurs. China's criminal law does not target specific ethnic groups, or religion. Everyone is equal before the law. The transfer of prisoners by judicial authorities is a normal judicial practice and brooks no distortion and defamation. The second lie is that Xinjiang has demolished a large number of mosques. The fact is there are about 24,000 mosques in Xinjiang, which means there's an average one mosque for every 530 Muslims. This ratio is higher than many Muslim countries and is also much higher than the number of churches per Christian in England. The Jami Mosque of Yezhen County and the Ilka Mosque in Horton Prefecture, which were claimed to have been dismantled, were in fact renovated and put to use again. Those who cook up the lies used a photo of the old, depopulated mosques to support their lies. Now I will refute their lies with the photos of the new renovated mosques. The third line is that forced sterilization is carried out in Xinjiang. The fact is, Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is one of the 5 ethnic autonomous regions in China. It is home to many ethnic groups, including 13 ethnic groups which have been living there for generations. It is a place where 25 million people of all ethnic groups call home and live together in harmony. The Chinese government protects the lawful rights and interests of people of all ethnic groups, big or small in population. Over the years, the Uyghur people and other ethnic minorities have enjoyed preferential population policy. Between 1978 and 2018, the Uyghur population in Xinjiang doubled from 5.54 million to 11.68 million. The true identities and stories of the so-called victims in the online videos about Uyghur being persecuted are not what they claim. These self-claimed victims are either the so-called East Turkestan elements engaged in anti-China and separatist activities, or actors trained by anti-China forces in the US and other Western countries to spread rumors about China. Their claims have no factual ground at all. The relatives and friends of some of these people in Xinjiang have stood up to refute these rumors and lies. At Andrew Ma's show, I mentioned earlier, Mr. Ma showed me another video of a so-called victim. This woman in the video, whose name is Zurat Dawat, claimed that he she went through forced sterilization. But her sister and brother publicly refuted her lies last November. It turns out he has never been to any vocational education and training center. She had an operation because she was diagnosed with a myoma of uterus when she had her third child. And she has never been forced to get sterilized.
Ras, nada bizim mem anlasam öğünüşkü badi yodigen gaplar varken nada siz azaldan öğünüşkü varılgan işler olsun. Faqatla öğünüşkü bağlan onda işler yok deyme. Mama anla bayram kaldım. Sizleme ondaq Balyaqada o'sma bada operatsiya qilgan. Bilasiz, shu Imron boboni kichigini tug'ib bo'lgandan keyin shu o'smani oldirish nimasi bilan shu Imron qo'l qo'yibadi deyman shu. Biz bog'ishada boshqa undaq majburiy undaq operatsiya qilgan ish yo'q. Men anglab hayron qoldim. Jinim qarindishim nada undaq yo'da undaq gaplarni bir qilib nim qilmasangiz.
The fourth line is that mass forced labor is taking place in Xinjiang. In fact, this is yet another story of fabricated by a hidden hand. This hidden hand is called Australian Strategic Policy Institute, which is also funded by US government and arms dealers. This institute made up the so-called Wakers for Sale report last March, which is distorted description of people from southern Xinjiang seeking job opportunities in central and eastern China and trying to make a living and get rid of poverty. The report refers to stories of these people as a forced labor. After that, this absurd report was used as evidence by the US Congress Executive Commission on China to make up the so-called Global Supply Chains, Forced Labor, and Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region report to fling slanders on China. Now I'd like to show you another video to lay bare their lies.
Alcom Ahmed has worked in this electronics factory in eastern China's Anhui province for over a year. The 22-year-old set a goal before departing his hometown in Kashgar in Xinjiang: make money and then marry his beloved girlfriend.
I felt somewhat afraid before coming here since it was my first time traveling far away. In the first 2 to 3 months, I couldn't get used to the new environment. But now I have gotten acquainted with colleagues and learned different skills.
He now loves working here, but he says homesickness is what he still needs to overcome.
I can ask for time off to visit my parents, but I think I haven't saved enough money. I will continue to work hard and go back home only after my goal is achieved.
我一直想自己的生活是怎么样好起来，但是没有直说我们的那个地方条件预算地也少，所以想到这里来看看的。
天天回家照顾孩子，心情特别好，不用再伸手问老公要钱了。去年我挣了24000元，还能给自己买了新手机、电动车，还给家里添了洗衣机和衣服。我觉得特别自豪。
Thank you for your attention. We Chinese people often say one does not know how vast and beautiful China is until one visits Xinjiang. This vast and beautiful region is now witnessing sustained economic growth, social harmony and stability, improved well-being, and unprecedented cultural prosperity. People of all ethnic groups in Xinjiang are leading a secure life, getting along with each other in harmony, enjoying full rights to life and development. Their freedom of religious belief and normal religious activities are respected by law. Now is the best time in history for Xinjiang to achieve development. Rumors will not write off China's progress in safeguarding human rights in Xinjiang. Attempts to disrupt Xinjiang's development and prosperity will never succeed. It is my hope that you will not believe the rumors and deceptive words of anti-China elements and politicians. We urge the UK government to view the progress and achievements in Xinjiang from a comprehensive and objective perspective. Stop making irresponsible remarks on Xinjiang. Stop using Xinjiang to interfere in China's internal affairs. We also hope that British media will discard their arrogance and prejudice and report and cover Xinjiang in an objective and fair manner so as to help the British public see a real Xinjiang.
Thank you, everybody. The ambassador has very kindly agreed to stay for another 10 minutes to take 3 more questions. So the first question, I'll invite Daniel Hewitt from ITV, please.
Thank you, Ambassador. Will China agree to allow a team from the United Nations Human Rights Council to visit Xinjiang and the facilities you've just shown us to carry out an independent investigation, unfettered, without any interference from the Chinese Communist Party, to see for themselves what is going on there?
As I told you, since 2018, about 1 diplomats, journalists, representatives from various countries, international organizations have been to Xinjiang. And we also welcome the Human Rights Commissioner to visit Xinjiang. The invitation is always there. It's all standing invitation. But what we are opposed to is the so-called independent investigations with ulterior motives. Try to use Xinjiang issue to interfere into China's internal affairs. Xinjiang's door is always open. Each year, there are hundreds of thousands of tourists visit Xinjiang. And I think people go there with a good intention, with an objective, bias will be welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Danica Kirka from Associated Press, please.
Yes, Mr. Ambassador, thank you for taking my question. I would like to draw upon your long your long history in the United States to ask you whether or not you believe relations with the U.S. are at a point of no return, given the statements from the Trump administration and the continuing threats that they could make against you.
I certainly hope not. I think, China still believes that good relations based on mutual respect, non-confrontation, cooperation, coordinated, in the best interest of the two countries. We have no intention to undermine this relationship, and we'll try our best to engage with the U.S. side. But as I said, many occasions, you needed two to tango. You needed two hands to make a clap. And I also believe that there's a broad public support. Since Nixon's visit to China in 1972, both countries work to build a relationship based on common interests. I think the common interests of the two countries are still there. And the foundations, especially among the American people, one we heard American people still support to engage with China. One US Secretary of State made this anti-communist, Chinese communist remark. I would call it a declaration of Cold War. We've seen many criticism of his statement. People are concerned where this administration will take this relationship. So I don't think we have passed the point of no return. I think the fundamental interests tied the two countries should be there. And I think there's people with a vision, with the far-sightedness, still work to maintain the fundamentals of this relationship. I hope the common sense will prevail at the end of the day.
Thank you. I know that there are still many other journalists who would like to raise questions, but I'm afraid we only have time for one last question. Could I invite Gui Tao from Xinhua News Agency?
Hello.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Please turn on your microphone.
Hello, could you hear me?
Yes, okay.
Okay, on Huawei. Huawei has been saying that it is an independent and privately held company, not affiliated with the Chinese government. So why does the Chinese government spare no effort to defend Huawei in the ongoing 5G row? And also, if the China-UK relations continue to sour, is there any possibility that the two countries will find themselves in a relationship that is characterized by hot economics and cold politics, 政冷经热, which once happened between China and Japan? Thank you.
On Huawei, I just published an article in the South China Morning Post. I'm not trying to advertise my article, but I really hope you will take some time to read this article. As a matter of fact, I try my very best to contribute my article to major British newspapers because it's really relevant. I think the British public need to hear the other side of the story. Right after UK government decision to ban Huawei. But unfortunately, no major newspaper would like to carry my article. In my, one of your colleagues earlier said, I've been here for 10 years. Now I really have a taste what the freedom of press is about in UK. They told me in a very blunt way, they only want to carry articles, which they think, they believe will have a better sale. So they do not carry my article on Hong Kong. They do not carry my article on Huawei. So I usually have to let my article to fly thousands of miles to Hong Kong, the South China Morning Post. Seemed to me they told me they still have some readers in UK. So I decided, okay, that's good. So I encourage you to read my article. I said to reject the Huawei, to refuse Huawei is to refuse opportunity, is to refuse growth and refuse the future. So I do not need to elaborate my main point. I just want to answer your question about the relationship. As I said in my opening remarks, it's not only this issue of Huawei, it's not about one Chinese company. It's about how UK trade and deal with China. It's a big picture. Do you treat China as an opportunity, or you treat China as a threat? And do you treat China as a partner, or you treat China as a rival? That is a fundamental issue. You have to make a choice. Secondly, any government have to provide protection to safeguard the interests, legitimate interests, rights and interests of the business people. It's true, not only for Chinese government, it's also true for UK government. I've been here for 10 years. I remember vividly how British leaders, politicians, work very hard for your business. I still remember even your prime minister tried, to promote the sale of Diageo. When our premier is here, they hope that there should be a signing ceremony for the project of Diageo project in China. And I still remember that your Chancellor of Exchequer pushed very hard, for Chinese side to buy the engines of Rolls-Royce. Now, they told us Rolls-Royce produced much better engines than any countries, including United States, than GE. And I still remember that your Commerce Secretary even went to China to promote the sale of British Steel, asked Chinese companies to buy the British Steel. So they ended up with buying the Jingye, bought the British Steel and agreed to invest for the next 10 years, 1.2 billion British pound. I think there's no question about the government working for the business interest of the country. So I think you can't take China's efforts to raise Huawei issue as an example. Some Cold Warriors just use this to show that Huawei is close to Chinese government. We treat every Chinese business as equal. We hope Huawei will succeed in this country. It's a win-win. So that's why I said the decision by British government that day was a dark day for Huawei, was a dark day for China-UK relations, was an even darker day for United Kingdom because it will miss opportunity to be a leading country in 5G infrastructure. So what is your I think I answered most of your questions.
Yeah, the second one is 政冷经热. How is that a possibility that the two?
Oh, I see. You mentioned about cold and cold politically and warm economically. I think the two are related. I think you need to have a good atmosphere to engage each other, and you need. So when I said it's a dark day for China-UK relations because the decision really undermined the trust, the credibility, the trust between the two countries, the credibility of the UK government. So that's why there's quite concerns on part of Chinese businesses And I just had a webinar with Chinese businesses right after UK's ban on Huawei. They all expressed their concerns because there's a security risk, there's an investment risk. So I think the two, you can't separate the two. We have no intention to politicize economic affairs, but you have to realize, you know, that trust, credibility is important for countries to engage each other. Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for attending today's press conference. That's the end of the conference. Hope to see you again. Thank you. Goodbye.